Welcome to the GAME.minder Report, your weekly source of upcoming gaming news and information, brought to you this week by GMX.
The GAME.minder Expo. Expo.
It's February 20th, and the GAME.minder Report starts now.
Right about now, I'd say, is a good time for it to start.
Sure.
Happy PlayStation 4 Day, Jim.
Yes. Happy, we thought it was going to be called something else, but it's really just PlayStation 4.
Yeah, it was like a head fake.
Yeah.
Is it going to be the Omni or no? It's just the PS4.
Yeah, so let's talk about the hardware specs, Jeremy.
Well, it's going to have an 8-core something.
Okay.
It's going to have 176 gigabits per second of throughput of something.
It's going to have a power cord. It's going to have a light that lets you know that it's on.
All right, so what you're saying is you didn't actually read any of the stuff. Because you're trying to make a joke about them not talking about hardware specs, but they actually did talk quite a bit about the hardware specs.
Yeah, but you know, okay. Anything new? Anything out of the, like? Is it like a Nintendo Wii where it's all motion control or anything?
Well, it's an AMD chip. I can tell you that here. Hang on, let me scroll back here and tell you what we got here. So we've got an AMD chip. It is going to have an x86 CPU, an enhanced, so 8 gigabytes of high-speed unified memory, massive local storage. I don't think they actually said exactly how massive. And then, of course, the new DualShock 4 controller with a sensor bar a la Wii U, Wii and Wii U. Or does the Wii U have a sensor bar too? Honestly, I don't even know. I've never even seen one.
Yeah, it does because it uses the Wiimote.
Right. Yeah, so it would have to. But yeah, so there's a picture of the sensor bar. Because basically the leaked controller that happened last week is pretty much exactly right. It's kind of like it's basically an Ouya controller, but with a light on the sort of back end of it so that it can track you the way that the Move does. It was kind of interesting. They did say that some of the reasoning behind that was not simply to have, the Move controls, but this way, slightly different than the way the Xbox necessarily does it, where it's like you log in and then you're player 1. Now it'll just sort of be like you're player blue and the other person is player pink. So as you move around, it can tell not only which player you are, but where that player is located in the room, which is kind of, sort of, it's like a melding of the Move stuff with the, next gen
And how much is this actually useful?
I have no idea.
Right. I mean, okay, it's like it reminds me of those apps when the iPhone 3G came out, which was, for all intents and purposes, the true iPhone.
Right.
The first iPhone was it. But when the iPhone 3G came out, everyone was like, look, man, I have a Zippo lighter. Or look, man, I can do this with my phone. And you did it once. And it was like cool for a second. And you never went to that app ever again. It's when it was like, look, I can tell that this controller's in another room. Great.
Well, wait, so you're saying the fact that a bunch of people used it really poorly up front, but then it went on to power almost every app that we use today. So what you're saying is that this is actually instrumental and it's the most important thing PlayStation's ever done.
No, what I'm saying is that these things they're touting right now is something cool, like a light, is not cool.
Is going to become the next cool thing.
How?
Because what you're talking about for the app is you're talking about the accelerometer and the touchscreen, which were in fact the technology behind it. The Zippo app was an app made by some idiot.
Right. What I'm saying is that the fact that the lights change colors, I think that's idiotic.
Well, that's how it tracks which one is which. I think that's how it does it.
It's a parlor trick.
So for those of us who are just tuning in, Jim's not a PlayStation guy. In case that's not clear. I'm a little bit more platform agnostic when it comes to this stuff, but Jim is sort of a dyed-in-the-wool PC come Xbox guy. So, I don't know if you've ever owned anything PlayStation related, have you?
No.
Yeah, okay. So, and I was not a PlayStation guy up until PS3, and the main reason I did it was so I could get Blu-ray. But I will say this, I'm going to say first out of the gate because I'm not really counting Wii U. Wii U's kind of last out of the gate of the last generation, in my opinion. As first out of the gate in like the true next gens, they're doing some things that I think are going to be pretty compelling. So like for instance, and I know, and again, now I'm interested to see what you think about this. This sort of instant share capability, like to the point where, one of the things that I guess people didn't really focus on in the controller itself when it was leaked is that there's actually now a dedicated share button on the controller, which will instantly basically sort of allow you to either record video of the game you're playing and share it, invite people in to sort of watch you playing the game, invite people in to join you while you're playing the game. So no more of this like, oh, dude, we got to set up a party. Let's set up a party. Okay, now let's all start the game. Okay, let's all start the game. Like, there's not going to be really any of that. It's going to be jump in, jump out. The resume, suspend resume concept now. Like, there's essentially no off button. Like, I can literally be playing. Oh, I got to go to work. Power off, leave, come back, power on. It'll take me right back to where I was. No booting up the game, no booting up the device. It's just suspended. You can now do the remote play, kind of like the way that Wii U is like, oh, your kids come in the room, I'm playing on the TV. Oh, I'll just shunt it down to the controller. Of course, this requires a PlayStation Vita to do as like a secondary screen. Plus, they've got all sorts of really interesting ways that they're planning on allowing you to play on tablets and phones and all this other kinds of amazing next-gen-y kind of stuff.
All right, well, let's kind of tackle this not one by one because I don't want to spend all the time on the PlayStation 4. But how much of this is actually going to be more annoying than it is like fun? For instance, like if you're in the middle of a dungeon or in the middle of a boss fight, and all of a sudden you're getting like just like this, when you're on the phone talking and then someone just starts texting you 8 times and all you hear is ding 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 ding, that's annoying.
This is true. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how annoying this is. I mean, obviously, this was a press conference, so they got to show it exactly the way they wanted to show it. And it's yet to be seen exactly how useful or enjoyable all of these sort of instant share things are going to be. I mean, personally, I think the idea of being able to instantly record any video in any game is pretty neat. You know, without having to do the way that sort of like Red versus Blue does it, where it's like, oh, they all get together and they set up specific games and then Bungie built in the ability to share clips and whatever. Like, that was all sort of fell to the individual developer. Now with this new one, there's not going to be any of that. It's all just going to be system level, built in to anything. I tell you some of the other really interesting things that came out of, you know, we reported on the Gaikai acquisition a while back, and we're starting to see exactly what they're hoping to do with that. Because one of the really cool things I think that they talked about was, so let's say you're on the PlayStation Network, you're browsing the store, you come up upon a game that looks interesting. You'll be able to tap a button and start playing that game immediately. If you like it, while you're playing it, you'll be able to say, go ahead and buy this and download it. Keep playing it. It'll download it in the background, and it'll sort of seamlessly transition in from you playing the streamed version to playing your locally purchased download version.
Can we use what I feel like, until I'm proven wrong, anything with the PlayStation 4 and whatever Xbox is about to do, the term immediately should be in air quotes, because I do not see, like, they develop these things in a vacuum where it's all in a, you know, uber gigabit intranet and everything's going blazing speeds. You get this out in the real world where people are on real world, you know, bandwidth run by freaking Time Warner, and it's not going to be immediate.
I don't necessarily think you're wrong. I do think, obviously, this is one of those things that we're going to have to see how it shakes out in real life, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as you think it's going to be.
Well, I also think the PlayStation Store or the PlayStation Network still has a lot of goodwill to make up with the fact that, what was it, 80% of their users' credit cards got stolen?
Right.
So if now they're saying everything is on the network, there's first, you know, right now it's like, well, you can use the network if you really want to, but yes, you can play a game, you know, without even having to be plugged in. And now it's always on all the time. They really have to show me that that is something that I can trust them with.
True. And I will say, you know, there was a tweet that someone just quoted, someone in the games media. They said, so the only thing I really care about all of this PlayStation stuff social is that I can turn it off. If I wanted to be social, I wouldn't be playing video games. And that's certainly one way to look at it.
Right. Well, speaking about always on or persistent.
Yes, that seems to be the sort of theme right now, isn't it?
Well, let me take it here. Let me just step back.
Yeah.
Stop me if you heard this before.
Okay.
A first-person shooter
First-person shooter.
in a world where humans have colonized other planets and now an alien life force is trying to wipe out all of humanity. Have you heard this story before anywhere?
It sounds familiar, but I haven't heard you say the term space marine yet. Is there some sort of space military involved?
Yes, and there's like a guardian.
Interesting. Interesting.
If you haven't picked it up, we're talking about Bungie's Destiny. Now, even though we're poking fun
Wait a
at the
minute. Wait a
fact
minute.
that
I was
this,
gonna go with SimCity. No.
no, it was Sid Meier's Pirates.
Good. Yes. Nice. Okay. Cool. So yes, Destiny. Now this is
Destiny.
actually was not. I've discovered this was not announced this weekend. It actually kind of was sort of people knew it was kind of kicking around for a while, but it had its first sort of like public display of
We talked
affection
about this
this
back in
weekend.
June when we talked about the Activision lawsuit.
Right.
And it came out. There was this game called Destiny, and it's a persistent online shooter. Now, if you also remember, Jeremy and I, that's you and
That's
me,
me.
we talked about the evolution of the first-person shooter in
Yeah.
regards to Halo
Yep.
and how the Spartan Ops is probably where things are going.
Yeah.
Destiny sounds like Spartan Ops, but just not broken up into missions.
Just sort of all the time.
It's just Spartan Ops all the time.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, well,
and
let's step back because you're already sort of riffing on this. Let's talk about what this is, okay? So Destiny, from the horse's mouth, Bungie sees Destiny as their next 10-year project, and what they see it being is a persistent world online shooter, whereby it's literally the world is always on. It's kind of MMO-ish, but in a shooter instead of like an RPG.
and they
So okay, go ahead.
Okay, and they said that it's not going to be true MMO in the sense that in an MMO right now, when you go to a town, there can be as many people are logged into that server in that town. They have some sort of proprietary system that's going to only let certain people in a certain town based off of location in the real world to help with server issues and lag.
Right.
But but they also mentioned something very interesting. They said depending on who you're playing with, what they've done in other like multiplayer venues, your experience can be 100% different than anyone else's experience because yes, there is a story, but it's not on rails like Halo really
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on even the gear that you buy, and I guess there's going to be ships that you can purchase. There's a bunch of different things that's going to go on in this.
Interesting. Interesting. So you are what? Positive on Destiny? You're skeptical? What do you think?
I am very, very positive. Bungie has done nothing to except for maybe OT. What was that one Halo?
ODST.
ODST. That one was kind of eh. But
Yeah,
Bungie
yeah.
has not given me any ill will or given me anything to not trust them.
Yeah.
And the fact, I'll put it to you like this: the reason why I'm super on board is that right now I only play the first-person shooter in a co-op manner. I'm not doing any multiplayer.
Okay.
So if this means that you and I, or me and someone else, or the three of us, or whatever, can enjoy this game,
A menage a trois, if you will.
word,
Go ahead.
and not even have to do a matchmaking,
Right.
and we can experience this for 10 years, sign me up.
Well, and you know what's interesting about that, Jim? To bring this back, Bungie was at the PlayStation 4 event, announcing that Destiny will be available on both PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4.
Guess what? When Xbox has their their thing, it's going to be available for the 360 and the 720.
I understand that. There's two pieces of this that are important. One, as I'm sure you remember, Bungie was in fact wholly owned subsidiary of Microsoft when they were doing Halo. So there was no Bungie in association with Sony. So that's a big deal to begin with. But there's also the question of this: why would it be on both PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4? And are those experiences going to be that different? It's one thing to be talking about, they released Halo 2 for Xbox, and then there was a compatibility layer that let it run on Xbox 360. The implication here, I think, is that it's not that. We're talking about an actual PlayStation 3 release and an actual PlayStation 4 release, not a backward compatibility layer type thing. At least that's what it seems like to me. And some people are wondering why they would spend the time to even bother releasing for the PlayStation 3.
Maybe they already did. Maybe they were like it was like a point of no return. Like they were already doing it for the PlayStation 3, and the dev kits came out to the point where they were like, well, all right.
Right. Well, and I will
And
say
they also
this.
saw the fact that people will probably buy the PlayStation 4 and Destiny.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It,
with the
I mean,
sort of
it's a
persistent
money thing.
open world thing, I think it makes sense that they want this to be on as many platforms as possible to get as many people on it as possible. Um, One thing that was not clear from the live blogging I was reading of the PlayStation was just how different of a development environment the PlayStation 4 is going to be. Because, some of the things that we had thought were rumored, like, oh, some head mounted something and blah, 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 blah. None of that's true. The only things that are really true is it's basically everything we've come to expect from the PlayStation 3 generation with a touch pad on the controller and move sort of built in, and then just more power. It's not, like a lot of people were thinking, some sort of like crazy, unbelievably innovative new way to play games. It's just a new way to experience games through the types of technologies that we're already sort of using. So what I think this means is that, and obviously all eyes now will be on Microsoft as we move into the Xbox 360, or excuse me, the Xbox Next 720, whatever you want to call it. Are they going to go for something technologically innovative along those lines? I mean, I think they've got in place the ability to do some of what Wii U is doing and what now we see PlayStation is doing with the Vita, this sort of second screen concept. They've already released the glass for Surface tablets, for iPads, for iPhones, what have you. So I think that second screen idea is really where it's going to be. I don't know that
If
there's going to be much
Microsoft
more.
if Microsoft can figure out a way to use the devices we already have, i.e., the iPad and the Surface, maybe the Samsung
Right.
Galaxy Next 4.2
Right.
C, um, if they figure that out, Xbox wins again.
No.
Because now all you're saying is that you've already spent your money on this,
Let's just
and now
use it
you
in
can
a new
you
way.
don't because who's going to buy a Vita just to play that? I mean, if you have a Vita right now and you buy a PS4, great. No one's buying a PS4 and a Vita at the same time. And if you do, can I also borrow $100,000 because you just liked wasting money?
Yes, well, there is that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our sponsor, which is a little bit self-serving this week, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Our
Yeah, why
sponsor
not?
this week is GMX. That's the GAME.minder Expo. It will be taking place on March 16th. GMEXPO.com is where you go to find out more information about that, gmexpo.com. And this is basically a little event that we're throwing here in Cleveland for gaming, game developers, gamers, maybe some business entrepreneurial types. It's going to be at the Launch House, which is sort of where we're headquartered right now, which is in Shaker Heights. If you're not in Cleveland, you're certainly welcome to fly in for the event, but I'm not holding out hope that a whole lot of people are going to do that. Cleveland in March is a little rainy and cold, but here's a little bit of what we're hoping to do at this event. We're planning on having some presentations, things along the lines of we're going to have a lawyer who's going to talk about copyright, trademark, how to protect your gaming IP, how to deal with sort of issues like mobile privacy and security. We're going to have a couple different panelists talking about how to run a gaming company. So if you're the kind of person who's like a tinkerer and you're playing with your games, coming up with ideas, maybe you got yourself a personal license for Unity or for Construct 2 and you're just building something out, not really sure if you're going to make any money with it. What are the challenges you might need to be aware of in trying to bring that to market and actually try and sell it? We're also going to have some workshops going so you can learn things like Unity, Construct 2, Game Maker, maybe getting started in 3D animation and design, a bunch of interesting stuff like that. And then we're going to finish off the night with a movie. It's basically the Mojang documentary, Minecraft, the Story of Mojang, from Two Player Productions. We're going to be showing that on Saturday night. It starts around noon. It's going to go all day long through the evening, capped off with the movie. So that's GMX. Take a look or follow GM Expo on Twitter. All right, so let's talk. Before we get into talking about what's coming out this week, I did want to mention one thing that I'm excited about, and that is that um, Bioshock Infinite has gone gold.
Already?
Yeah, it comes out in a month. It has gone gold, and they're, I'm assuming, going to be releasing to manufacturing probably within the week, which means it actually will ship on time. Well, on time being relative since they've already delayed it a couple times, but it's going to ship on the time we're expecting it to ship now, which I believe is March 20-something.
I still have to finish Oblivion, play Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
I'm so behind.
I've been replaying both of the first two BioShocks, and I just can't wait. I did want to mention a couple of the games that were brought up at the PlayStation 4 event. Just I don't know if these will actually be in by the time we put this live, but they did show off some pretty interesting looking games. We've got Killzone Shadowfall, which is a new Killzone game, obviously. We've got a new racing game called Drive Club. The sort of tech demo-y kind of first look that they showed us of a next generation title is something called Knack, Knack. Like, I've got the knack. And they showed a new Infamous game called Infamous Second Son. And Jonathan Blow, who you may know as the builder and developer for Braid on the 360, was showing his new game, The Witness, which I believe is actually in GameMinder now, but it's listed as coming out for iOS, and it is in fact now announced that it's going to be a PlayStation 4 exclusive.
Yeah, and then some other big ones. Capcom is having a next-gen Phanta Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Squeenix is going to have a Final Fantasy for PlayStation 4. Watch Dogs is going to be PS4. And then finally, Diablo 3 is going to come to PlayStation 3 and 4.
Yes, well, that was one of the things. They invited Blizzard up on stage to meet with them, and they talked about bringing Diablo 3 to consoles and the PlayStation 4 being sort of the banner. I think think this is going to be on PS3 and PS4, kind of like the way, what's it called is? Destiny.
Yeah, actually, and that's actually not a bad platform. I think Diablo 3 would actually work well. I mean, yes, the keyboard is good for all your shortcuts. So if they can figure out a way, but if you can play a game as depth as Oblivion, I think Diablo 3 could work well.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Oh, they did say they're going to have 4-player co-op online for that, so that's cool. At least on the PlayStation 4. I don't know about the 3. All right, let's talk about what's coming out this week. We got Rayman Legends, Dynasty Warriors 7, Empires, Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 Plus, because we just need to keep adding adjectives to the end of that one. E-Train Odyssey 4, Legends of the Titan, and a game that I was really excited to see. I believe it was a PAX 10 game. The Bridge is coming out. Was that a PAX 10?
It was a PAX 10. Actually, The Bridge is started by two guys that went to Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, Ohio, and I think now they are in California. But we have been in touch with them, and so their game is about to be ready.
All right, check it out. What'd you pick this week, Jim? Is Destiny your pick of the week?
No.
Okay.
Temple Run 2.
Temple Run 2 came out like a month ago, Jim.
Well, it just got added.
Did it get added for Android, maybe? It's been out on iOS for a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, all right, let me pick another one.
No, that's okay. Don't pick another one because we're almost out of time. So I'll just tell you what my pick is. My pick is going to be Infamous Second Son. And yes, this is me right now committing that I am going to be getting a PlayStation 4. I played the first two Infamous games. I loved them. Can't wait to see where they take the series in the future. The sort of like electricity power concept and all of it I thought was pretty neat. And they were really fun to play. So I think that's a Naughty Dog. Is that Naughty Dog who made those, I think? Yeah. So, alrighty. Well, I think that's going to do it for the GameMinder Report this week. If you like what we do here, why not subscribe by hitting the button right at the bottom of the screen if you're watching on YouTube or from GameMinderReport.com.
And to view the show notes for this episode or to follow any of the games mentioned today, don't forget to visit GameMinderReport.com/38.
And don't forget to follow GameMinder on Twitter or Facebook or get the app for your iPhone or Android phone.
And finally, don't forget to buy all your games through the website or app. Every game you pre-order or purchase helps support this show and the service. Signing off for the GameMinder Report, I'm Jim.
And I'm Jeremy, reminding you, don't forget to play.